Luke, thanks very much for speaking to us. I guess one of the first things we want to ask about Officer, for those people who might not be familiar with the area, this is not one that you were growing up in. This is actually a totally new area for you. Is that the case?
That's right, yeah. So I grew up closer to the city, about 20 minutes from the city, and then we moved out this way a few years ago, probably about 4 years ago now, and then we planted about 2 years ago. So yeah, it's a new spot for us, a lot closer to the country than what we grew up in. So we're used to the beach and now we're out in the bush, so it's been good.
Can you give us a bit of an idea of what Officer is like?
Yeah, so I guess up until recent years, it's just been a bunch of paddocks with lots of cows and sheep and all that sort of stuff. But in the last couple of years particularly, it's really turned into estates. So a lot of houses going up, all the way from high density, medium density kind of housing. And a lot of people moving out from, a bit like me, from closer to the city out this way. It's more affordable and a lot of young families, and so yeah, we're sort of right in the middle of a spot where the houses are going up right around us. So we think that's a great gospel opportunity, a lot of people coming into this region.
It's not just dealing with a wide range of ages, is it? There's actually a wide socioeconomic bracket in Officer.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a very diverse community. I think it's becoming more multicultural. I think out this way, up until recent times, it hasn't been very multicultural. But with the growing suburbs now, there's a lot of cultures being represented. So for us, that church looks a little bit different to what it has in the local community in recent times. But we've got a really good wide range of ages. So you've got the original farmers that have kind of stayed in the area. So they're sort of more senior and getting on towards elderly. And then you've got all the way through to newborns, and there's a lot of young families now in recent times. So we're really blessed at church. It feels like a family because we've got the grandparent kind of people, and we've got the newborns, and we've got everything in between. So I guess there was some concern when we planted a church that would just be a young adult church, but that hasn't been the case. We've got a really great bunch of all ages, so that's exciting.
And part of that has been the growth. You've started in a community centre and then you moved to a school. Can you give us an idea of what's been happening as far as buildings are concerned?
Yeah, that's right. So we started in a community centre, we were really blessed with that. It was brand new, so I think it opened a couple of weeks before we started, so we moved straight into that, and that was a great place for church, and that fit up to around about a couple of hundred people. And then we outgrew that, and we've now moved to a secondary college, or it's a grammar school, and so it's a bit more like a basketball hall, and we use the classrooms for kids ministry, so it's a lot more space, not quite as comfortable, and so that's been a good adjustment. And then yeah, we've got a block of land now that someone's donated to us, and so we're looking at building a building there. We've got architects that are working on plans at the moment, and then we'll have to do it in stages, as you alluded to. When you start a church and in an area that's not a wealthy area, there's not a lot of money, and so yeah, it'll take time. So we'll build stage one, hopefully starting next year.
Luke, do you sometimes wish that you just settled for a straightforward ministry, maybe a standard church that's been around for 100 years?
Yeah, so I think I have days like that for sure, and I've worked in those sort of positions before, and I guess, you know, one of those days you remember what it was like back then as well. I think every role you're in has its different challenges, and I think for me one of the real frustrations, I guess, is when you're part of an existing church and you're not leading it, when you feel like it's not as effective as it could be, and you want to see those changes, but you can't really have that impact. And so I think my personality, I have a little bit more of that pioneering kind of thing, and so you know, the challenges of being an existing church are dealing with mindsets and decades of doing things a certain way. The challenges of a church planter, having no people and no money and no place to meet and all those sorts of things, no leaders. And I get fueled by those sorts of challenges. I want to see the kingdom of God grow, I want to see people raised up, and so yeah, I think I'm in the right spot. Yeah.
Luke, thanks very much for your time.